I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Long as I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. Sports coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like this, and I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody please better help. Running this thing like Elf. I thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube Live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your chain for the championship. Bucking on town, duck down. Falcons, pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL, when things seem fishy, then you probably smell the crooked referees or Roger Goodell. Yeah, like this, and I'm a who that. Every day I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like this, and I'm a who that. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
All right, shout out to the Who Dat Nation, man. We appreciate y'all for joining us for this episode of the Sports Coma. Much love and big ups to the Who Dat Nation. We have a very special guest chiming in the building today to represent the Green Bay Packer Nation, man. It's Mike Wahle representing. Now, this man played in the NFL for how many years was it? About 11 years, wasn't it, Mike?
It was 11 years, that's right.
11 years with the Packers and with the Seattle Seahawks, as we call them, Mike, no disrespect. But we kind of got like a little mini thing with the Seahawks. We kind of reference them as the Sea Chickens. So, I mean, we played them.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. Don't forget, I had 3 years in Carolina battling at NFC South too, man.
There you go. So this man is very versed in what's going on in the league. So we're going to bring him in to kind of talk about what's happening. Mike also has a podcast that he does as well. On the Block podcast. Let me see if I can get his Twitter page up there. On the Block podcast. Oh my goodness, I got so much stuff going on this thing. But he also does the podcast with, what is it, Amon Green? Isn't it Amon Green that you do the podcast?
Yeah, so the On My Block podcast, we do it. Amon Green's we're going back and forth right now. He's more of an intermittent guest on the show because we unfortunately or fortunately, he's up in Nebraska teaching esports, being the new esports coach, and hopefully he's going to take over that football team here pretty soon. But yeah, we got the On My Block podcast with the Bleav Network. You can find me at Mike Wahle 68 on Twitter, Process to Perform on Instagram, man. Let's talk some ball, brother. All
right, here we go. Mike is raring to go. I'm raring to go. Matchup coming up Sunday. It's a noontime kickoff. We're going up to it's going to be great weather, by the way. I love to play the Packers. Mm-hmm. Early in the year, man, we don't want to see them late in the year with all of the weather because they got a decisive advantage there. So let's get right into it, Mike. The Green Bay Packers, they come up short against the Atlanta Falcons. You know, we despise the Atlanta Falcons. We were really, really roaring for you guys to get that victory. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Kind of talk about what needs to happen to get from that side to the winning side against the Saints.
Yeah, when you watch the Green Bay first game, they play the Bears, and like the Bears aren't a very good football team, so it's really tough to get a gauge for where you're at. But you feel pretty good about some things, specifically the physicality on defense, our ability to get to the quarterback, and offensively, Aaron Jones comes in and has a big day. We're kind of trying to figure ourselves out with this new quarterback, Jordan Love, and for the first time, we have a quarterback that's not a Hall of Famer in the last 30 years. So we're kind of figuring out where everything fits. We have a plethora of weapons at the wide receiver and tight end position, but they're all first and second year guys. Our really only true veterans on the offense are David Bakhtiari, who's going to be a Hall of Fame left tackle, and then Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon in the backfield for us. The problem was last week we're missing a couple. Bakhtiari's out, Aaron Jones is out, our speedster Christian Watson is out. Still, very, very tons of opportunities to win this football game against the Atlanta Falcons, and we just got out physical, we got out coached, we got out executed, just played a really sloppy game. I think just from an execution standpoint, they beat us number wise in a number of crucial situations. And as you and I talked about off air, we have the butt fumble. I don't know what the nickname is going to be for the Jordan Love missnap on the fourth down, but it's going to stick with him for a while for sure.
Yeah, that play was so catastrophic because up to that point, the mojo, the energy with the Packers, if they were marching to score, and then I don't know what happens. He just trips over, lifts his leg, loses his balance, falls into the right guard, causes the fall. I was just, what is that? But after that, everything just kind of went south. I was like, man, please beat these people, knock these the Falcons off. It didn't quite work, but it's all right. So you mentioned let's see, you also you mentioned Jones as being out, man. That's a big one. They got a lot of fantastic young targets. I still believe in Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love is going to be fantastic. He was having a good day up until that point to things started going awry, kind of fell apart. But looking at the wide receivers like Romeo Doubs, he was really doing some really fantastic work there. When you look at their offense, talk to me about these young wide receivers, because I'm a bit concerned about these good wide receivers that you guys have. Of course, like you mentioned, the fact that, wow, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, these are two Hall of Famers. You guys are very fortunate, man. We had one in Drew Brees, but y'all guys had two back-to-back with a lot of success, and now Jordan Love is there. So talk to me about some of these unknown diamonds that you think will have some impact in this game.
Well, I mean, the guy, if you've never watched the Green Bay Packers, or if you watch them all the time, the one name you probably never heard until last week was Dontavian Wicks, number 13. He's a fifth-round draft pick this season, rookie player. Wasn't sure that he was going to be dressed for the game, but with Christian Watson down, all the other injuries we have, he comes and plays huge. I would say, assuming everybody's healthy, Christian Watson is a guy who went to North Dakota State, and it's one of those guys that you get really excited about as a fan, or as a fan of the game, because you go to a small school, and then when you get drafted, you're like 6'5" and you run a 4.38. Okay, so something happened between that small school. So you have that small school chip on your shoulder, that small school work ethic, and then all of a sudden you've got NFL body at 6'5", running a 4.38. So we're really excited about him. He started doing some breakout things last season. He battled the injury bug early last season. He's battling it again. I think that's sometimes a problem with these finely tuned athletes. I was more of a Mack truck. You put the gas in, turn the keys, and go, right? Slow. But Romeo Doubs is a fourth round pick last season. Just turned into a really, really good player during training camp. Started turning some heads, making some plays against Jair Alexander, all-pro cornerback, and translated that into the season. So he's a guy that's been solid. He started out with 2 touchdowns in the first game. Samori Torres is a guy that's going to get more looks this year. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're all right, Mike.
He's gonna get more looks during the season as the season goes on. He was kind of a spot player last season. The other 3 guys that I think we're all really excited about from a Packers standpoint is you have Jaden Reed coming in from Michigan State. Jaden Reed probably should have been a first round pick had he gone out last season. He was a first team All-American. And then they lost their quarterback, so his stats go down. People forget about him. He is a really good player. Scored his first touchdown this past game versus the Falcons. Slot guy, can return punts. Just run the jet sweep with him. Just get the ball in his hands and see what he can do. And then the other 2 guys, maybe number 1, most importantly, is Luke Musgrave, number 88. He's our tight end from Oregon State, second-round pick. Unlimited athleticism. Still have to teach him the fundamentals of the game when it comes to how do we block in line, how do we become a more physically dominant player, how do we become a complete tight end. And then Tucker Kraft, we drafted in the 3rd round, another tight end who's, I think, physically can be a dominant player in this league. So we've got this core of young players that are going to do great things with Jordan Love over time. But you just start looking at Jordan Love's first year, and then all these other guys are either first or second year players. So we're just trying, like I said, this is one of those things where we're trying to figure it out. Matt LaFleur's got the reins of this offense without Aaron Rodgers for the first time. What does it look like? Only time will tell.
Yeah, and that's well said, Mike, to be honest with you, because the way I was viewing it is I was looking at the Green Bay Packers game against the Falcons, and I was kind of doing my I guess you could say I was kind of doing my scouting work, because I knew that we'll see the Packers after we see the Carolina Panthers. So I'm in my head, I'm looking and I'm saying to myself, man, let's see what these guys are made of. We know that they're young. I know I'm familiar with Christian, familiar with Romeo. We, scouted those guys. Also, a few of you interested with a few of your defense and how your defense plays. Kind of talk to us, because I know the defense, you guys run a 3-4, correct? You operate with the 3-4.
Base defenses for 3-4, but you know how it is these days.
As
We're running nickel more often than not, but yeah, we do have a base 3-4 defense.
Yeah, I was looking at that, Mike, and I was saying to myself, man, this is an interesting team because I know some of these players I recognize with Devondre Campbell, and you got Walker there. Rashawn Gary is fantastic. Preston Smith is when healthy is a beast. So kind of talk about the defense and some of the playmakers. Lucas Van Ness was a guy that you guys drafted that has a lot of promise. I see he was kind of banged up in the game, but talk to us about that defense you guys hold.
Yeah, sure. The defense is really just we have 8 first-round draft picks. So you think, boy, this defense should be absolutely dominant, and they haven't been. They really haven't lived up to expectations. Last season, not to say it was a disappointment, but certainly you're looking at a top 5 defense, and then Rashawn Gary goes down, and all of a sudden they just drop to middle of the pack, maybe below average as far as points per game, yards given up, everything. Particularly in the run game, just when you talk about lane fits, lane discipline, being able to tackle, we've come up short a number of times. In the first game of the year versus Chicago, super physical, Darnell Savage, first-round pick from Maryland, moved from corner to safety for the first time this season. Everyone's kind of figuring out, trying to figure out how he's going to do, where he's going to fit in. He had a monster game the first game, but then we go and play the Falcons, and the Falcons with what I would say a very, very average offensive line, they bring this kid Bijan Robinson in, and all of a sudden it's like, I played against Barry Sanders. So I remember when the guys in the locker room were trying to talk each other up, like, oh, you're going to miss. Take your shot. You're going to miss. This kid is not Barry Sanders. They're totally different body styles. But the way that he makes the first guy miss it strikes fear in the hearts of defenders. And I think we saw that with the Green Bay Packers this last week, where Bijan Robinson became the complete, all-consuming focal point, and we forgot some of the disciplinary things along the rest of the team. We've got talent. Rashawn Gary, if he's healthy this year, he'll be an all-pro. He's that quality of a player. He's not like Brian Burns from a style standpoint, from a production standpoint. You're going to get the same output. Kenny Clark's been a high level player at the 3 technique or the nose tackle for the entirety of his career there. Devondre Campbell had a breakout year 2 years ago and he was all-pro, bit by the injury bug last season, but we're hoping to see him regain form. 2 Georgia products last year. Quay Walker playing linebacker, needs to be more physical, but a super athlete. And then obviously Devondre Wyatt playing the 3 technique, a lot of those Georgia defensive linemen. He's getting better. You're seeing him show up in the backfield more often this season, so we're excited about him. You talked about Preston Smith. Jair Alexander is one of the top 2 cornerbacks in the league, but did not have a great game last week against Drake London and company. Let's be honest, a lot of that stuff is zone defense, but we got to call it what it is, right? Sometimes guys get yards on you. And then the guy you talked about, Lucas Van Ness, 13th pick in the draft, interesting pick out of Iowa. Wasn't a full-time player, wasn't necessarily even a starter. I know there's some rumors going around about how Iowa starts seniors and whatnot, but Lucas is a raw guy, super athlete, can really work the bull rush, can really play power football, would like to see his hand in the ground more. Tight ends had success against him last week in the run game, which surprised the heck out of me. So I'll be really interested to see how not only Lucas Van Ness, but also this entire team bounces back against a physical Saints football team.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it because I was like, man, we have to be able to do a better job of handling the business against these guys, man, like in this matchup. Me personally, I look at the Green Bay Packers. I'm familiar with a lot of these guys. I did some research on them. Who's the leader of the defense, Mike? Would you say that's Kenny Clark?
Yeah, I would say it's. I mean, Jair Alexander is kind of his own guy, right? Marches to the beat of his own drum. He's one of those unicorns that you get every couple years where he acts a certain way and he can act however he wants because he's just that dude. But I don't know if everybody has what he has inside themselves. I think Kenny Clark has been that steady hand, that leadership potential. I think Rashawn Gary's got that leadership potential as well. But when you look at this team, again, 8 first-round draft picks on defense, you start looking around and going, we have to be better. Especially with a first-year starting quarterback and young offensive skill position players, they have to dominate games. They have to set a bar of, we're going to average 17 points per game. We're going to give up 250 yards on offense, and that's it. Like, we have to set some really, really high benchmarks for these guys and have them leap over and meet those expectations. defensive coordinator Joe Barry's been under a lot of pressure, I think, from the media, from the fan base, because they've underperformed. It'll be interesting to see what kind of adjustments they make during the week this weekend to play against what I would think is a much better Saints offense than what we saw the 2 weeks prior.
Yeah, you know what, Mike? Let me tell you, man. We've been the offense. Listen, I'm just ecstatic about how our defense is playing. Our defense is just ridiculous. You know,
They really are.
we're not allowing guys to do very much. In the matchup against the just Monday night here when we got up against the Carolina Panthers, they didn't get down and score a touchdown to garbage time, toward the back end of the game. The field goals that they have, two of the field goals they had, we held them to the longest, were 50-plus yard field goals. So I love what the defense is doing for the most part. Our special teams is holding up. It's just Derek Carr and the Saints offense getting on code with each other, ironing out the wrinkles and making things happen. So, that's our major concern is, and now we facing issues with the running back position. Jamal Williams has a hamstring issue. They tried to work it out prior to him leaving the game, and ultimately the Saints decided to kind of, put him on the side. We still missing Elvin for another couple of weeks before he comes back. And then, of course, we have, Tony Jones Jr., our practice squad running back who we've had here before, comes in, gets 2 touchdowns. Taysom Hill leads the team in rushes, so the Saints have some versatility. So we just need to iron out some wrinkles offensively speaking, so we don't have these heart attack games, as I call them.
Right.
These struggle wins, Mike. These are struggle wins, but listen, you're not going to always win with the 20-30 blowout. Sometimes you got to get some of these struggle wins, as I call them.
Yeah, for sure. And the culture that Saints team has had on defense for the last couple of years with Demario Davis and Cam Jordan. You see Carl Granderson out there making plays. You see the rookie out there, Brian Breesy, making plays. Yes. It's an exciting team to watch. And I think what's cool about the Saints is their priority has always been stop the run, right? You always hear that on TV. You always hear when they're watching a Saints game. Man, they really prioritize stopping the run and then understanding that is going to create opportunities to go get that quarterback. And like when you watch this game yesterday, they're doing it all. They're winning 1v1 matchups. Right. They're getting in the backfield. They're running pick stunts with Demario Dawson. They're doing things from a dog and blitz standpoint that will free up free rushers. And then they're just playing a numbers game pre-snap where they're making it difficult for the quarterback to ID, especially a young quarterback like Bryce Young. Obviously, Jordan Love, a little bit older, but from an experience standpoint, not that further advanced. So if you're the Packers, you really have to be on point with IDing the fronts, accounting for everybody, and then just knowing where your hots are early, because I think this is one of those teams, especially on the edges. Like, we have a young guy, Zach Tom, who just has solidified his spot at the right tackle, and he's doing a really good job. I think he's going to be the best right tackle they've had since Brian Bulaga, who was a first-round pick out of Iowa about 10 years ago.
Wow.
But this Cam Jordan matchup,
yes,
in the run and pass game, I mean, it's going to be box office for us. I mean, for our Green Bay Packers fans and for Zach Tom, he's the guy. I mean, Cam Jordan's been the guy for a long time. He's the guy over there that you want to see, because he's not just a pass rusher. He's actually arguably the most complete left defensive end in the game still. So I can't wait to see that matchup.
Yeah, this is going to be cool, man. You're absolutely right. The matchups along the offensive line, man. Let's look at let's go over the statistics, if you please, Mike. We're going to look at some of these stats right here. Let me see if I could kind of superimpose them. They're a little small there. But, these are some of the statistics right here as it stands between both teams. As you can see, Saints 372 flat in terms of total yards, 270.5 through the air. They rush at 101.5 on the ground. Green Bay 286 flat, 198 through the air. They're throwing and they're rushing at 88 per game. Defense, Saints 27.5 versus 393 flat by the Green Bay Packers. Saints.
Is that an average of 2 games, or is that Jesus? I hope that's combined. Good Lord.
That's 2 games there, Mike, right now. Clearly, my goodness. But the Saints 175.5 are allowing through the secondary, and they're giving up 102 yards flat over the last 2 games. Green Bay 393 total, 226.5 through the pass through the secondary, and allowing 166.5 running the balls. So absolutely some stuff that definitely needs to happen in terms of.
We gave up 221 yards against the Falcons rushing. And I don't care if you win the turnover battle. There's so many things that have to happen to give up 220 yards. And it wasn't a fluke like 98-yard run. You
No.
know, there's so many things that have to go poorly on the defensive side of the football to give up that many yards rushing. And
Right.
it's just I can just tell you from a player standpoint and a coach's standpoint, it is the most demoralizing thing that can possibly happen to your football team is giving up 200 yards on defense from a rushing standpoint. So we've got a lot to work on.
Yeah, and listen, Robinson is the dude is special. You spoke about him. He's not a Barry Sanders, but the guy is. I don't know, Mike. I was trying to see if I can get a comparison. What type of?
There's like Percy Harvins. There's just guys that you've seen along the way that you're just like, man, if you get him the ball behind the line of scrimmage, it's problems. And what they're doing, the Falcons, that is genius is they're bringing Tyler Algier and they're putting him in the pistol, and then they put Bijan Robinson. They're moving around. If he's in the slide, he's going in motion. And defenses, historically have a real hard time IDing two running backs in the game anyways, and how they want to match up with that from a personnel standpoint and then just an X's and O's standpoint. And man, I can't tell you how many critical times in this last game where the Falcons had leverage and or numbers just from RPO standpoint, outside toss, just because we didn't know how to match up with their personnel.
Yeah, you're right, Mike. It looked like they were quite confused different times when Robinson, you're lining them all the way up on the boundary as a wide receiver, moving them inside here sometimes. And it's just ridiculous because Arthur Smith has the identity to run that squad the way he wants to, as a ground and pound, like two Mike Tyson punches, a left and a right with Bijan, and then they hit you with Tyler Algier, these two north-south thumpers. It's just ridiculous. So we'll be seeing them later on down the line. But you guys got a hell of a thumper in your own right in A.J. Dillon, man. The guy has tree trunks for legs, man. North-south, he will run over you. He's a difficult guy to bring down. And plus, he showed me that he can act that. And I knew he can catch the ball out the backfield. And I know you guys would probably want to get him involved in the offense to kind of get everything set up.
Yeah, if you look at the last two games, if you take away quarterback scrambles, we averaged less than 3 yards a carry the first game and 3.2 yards a carry last game. So we're just not getting it done. And a big part of that has been trying to get AJ, because Aaron Jones was hurt this last week, trying to get AJ the right runs for what he's good at and what our personnel can block. We have our offensive line is good, but Bakhtiari's out. We're kind of we were switching players mid-series last week. We have Jose DeGuara, who's our new fullback. He was a converted tight end, where we're putting him in some situations where he has to take a downhill linebacker, getting a 5-yard head start while coming around an edge, like going lateral. So there's just some situations where I think we can be better from a play design and play calling standpoint to put those unique individuals in the best position for them to be successful. We still have to, ultimately, the players got to play and they got to execute their blocks and make the right reads, run through tackles when need be. But we got to put those guys in better positions in order to defeat, again, like this Saints defense is so good that if we're going to try to get cute, I think it's just going to be to our detriment.
Yeah, so let's lead into that, Mike. That's the perfect segue to get right into predictions and first your keys to victory for Green Bay to get the win. I know you spoke on a lot of it during this segment, but kind of get intricate into it. And what do you think that Green Bay needs to do to secure the win at home and against the Saints?
Well, the turnover battle is always big for us. Last week we won the turnover battle 1-0, but we gave up over 200 yards on rushing on defense. So I think those kind of X each other out. When I look at the Saints right now, if I look at the Saints offense, I want to force Derek Carr to sit back in the pocket and make plays. I think you have wonderful wide receivers, and I'm worried about, quite frankly, the quality of wide receiver that we're going against this week. But when you watch Derek Carr right now, he's holding the ball a little long, and there's always been this question of, can he deliver passes with pressure in his face? Like He threw a bad pick into triple coverage there's just, if people are in his face, the ball floats a little bit. I mean, he's got a strong arm. He's a big guy. But sometimes that pressure gets to him and he doesn't throw the pass like he wish he would have. Can we get there with 4? And if we can't get there with 4, can we disguise some zone dogs, some drop blitzes, and get into coverage situations where those deep outs or those deep in cuts that they like to run are being double covered? We have somebody underneath because he does float a lot of those passes. So that would be probably the most important thing we can do on defense. And then offensively, we have to establish some sort of identity. The last 2 games, we're not putting up a ton of points. The first game is really the Aaron Jones story. Aaron Jones touches the ball 5 plays in the first drive. We score. He doesn't touch the ball the rest of the half. Second half, we go in, he touches the ball 6-7 times, including like a huge screen pass down the right sideline. We score. They feed him the ball a couple more times. Some good things happen. But ultimately, aside from Aaron Jones, I don't know exactly what they're trying to accomplish, what types of runs, what types of play action. Are we an under center team? Are we a pistol team? Are we a shotgun team? What exactly is it that we want to be? And so establishing an identity with this young team is going to be super, super important. I don't know. This isn't a great week to do it, or maybe it's the best week to do it because you're playing against a really, really good defense. But I think you have to come in there saying, I used to love these games when on Saturday night, the coach would come in and say, this is how we're going to beat them, or really on Wednesday, this is how we're going to beat them. This is how we're going to run the plays in the first half. These are the possible adjustments we're going to make in the second half. And this is how we're going to beat this football team. And we all had a very clear understanding. If we go in and execute this game plan, we're going to win. And it wasn't like we're going to run a little bit of pistol. We're going to run some shotgun. We're going to do this. And we're going to try that. We're going to run jet sweeps on 3rd and 1. Man, we're a downhill football team. Let's go play downhill, run off the play action, make some things happen.
Yeah, Mike, that's interesting. You spoke about identity. That's the key to it, man, because I think the Saints might be dealing with that a little bit. Even though we got the guns, we got a lot of talent wide receiver wise, pretty much everywhere. Our tight end room is very unique. Well, running backs are very awesome, and of course, we talked about earlier, we are missing AK-41 for the first 3 weeks, and he's a big part of our identity as a whole. So we kind of struggling to figure out what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. But I did realize with the Saints offense, just looking at how they move the ball, a couple of these plays, like the deep strike play with Derek Carr, which that's his best ability. When he came here, we were scouting him, and I said, hey, man, this guy's best thing that he does, he loves throwing that deep ball. That is what he does. He does it really easy and very, very well.
Effortless, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, 40, 50-yard throws is like it's like he's throwing like a 5 or 10-yard check down. I mean, it's insane how he just gets the ball upfield. But he had several plays in the last couple of games that have sparked offensive drives. The Chris Olave play, the Rashid Shaheed play, these are phenomenal plays, man. So it's going to be interesting. Mike, talk to me about prediction. Do you do game in terms of what you think the score is going to be? What you think about that, buddy?
Listen, I don't even know what the spread is. I haven't looked at it yet. I'm afraid to look after last week. This is going to be a really tough game. Usually you like to come in and be confident. Here's what I would say about the Green Bay Packers under Matt LaFleur. They usually don't play 2 bad games in a row. So okay. They usually come back and, they were 13-3 3 years in a row. They obviously had a down year last year. And I know this is a new team with a new quarterback, but I'd like to think that there's the culture in that, like being a Green Bay Packer means something. Right. Being in that locker room means something. And the leaders that they have, the Kenny Clarks of the world, the Rashawn Garys of the world, the David Bakhtiaris of the world, my guess is that they have a bounce back in production and performance just on the individual level. Now, are we coached in the positions to be successful this week, especially on defense? Like that's honestly for fans, for the organization, that's still up in the air. But I think this is going to be a very competitive game. If we can get to Derek Carr, I feel good about our chances here, because I do think we'll be able to have, maybe a 20-point successful game against the Saints. So it's just going to be like a 21-17, 20-17 kind of game. I'm going to put the Packers ahead because I'm a Packers guy, but This is really a coin flip game to me.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting, man. And like I said, a lot of people kind of throwing it away and saying, oh, we're going to smash the Packers. And I'm sitting up here saying to myself that is not going to happen. We're going to have the Saints are still struggling from an identity standpoint. Each game we're supposed to improve incrementally at the very least. And also Jordan Love is a guy that been in that system a couple of years, so he has some familiarity. That is a good coach up there. The guy knows what he's doing. They've bought in. So there's not going, like I said, they should have beat Atlanta. It had a few plays broke down here or there, but this team is very talented, and those people are not going to go up there and let you just beat the crap out of them up in the home building. You're going to have to earn that win. So anyway, with that being said, listen, man, Mike Wahle, man, this man knows his sport. He's a professor dropping the science on the Green Bay Packers and doing this thing. So, Mike, talk to us, man. Let the family members know where you could be reached so they can check out your stream and any other things you're doing, my friend.
Yeah, you can check out the On My Block podcast at a Process to Perform channel on YouTube or anywhere you get your audio stuff. We do a ton of film breakdowns. So if you like film analysis, if you like game analysis, like we're definitely the place to go there. Hit me up at Mike Wahle 68 on Twitter, Process to Perform on Instagram. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure talking ball with you.
Hey, man, you the man, bro. Appreciate it. And if you need anything, all New Orleans Saints talk, you know where to reach out to us. Also, Terrence Hopper's a good dude, man. He does. He's on the Bleav Network too. We had him on the show too. So really good people. All right, so thank you, my friend. Appreciate you, Mike. And if you want to chime in after the recap stream, feel free just to reach out to me and let me know. And I'll be, whether it's a win, lose, or draw, my friend. You know, we'll be gracious. We'll be gracious. All right, thank you, y'all. Appreciate y'all, man. That's Mike. And for everybody, man, y'all feel free to hit the like button. Join Mike's stream, man. The smart dude over there. He's doing very positive things at the Bleav Network. Check out his pages, Instagram and Twitter and otherwise, man. We good. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to get out on that. I appreciate each and every last one of y'all. Y'all stay good and stay blessed. We're going to holler at you. Love, much love, and who that?
Yeah. Boogie like Benson, I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Long as I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. Sports coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, 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 Boogie like Benson, I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody please better help. Running this thing like Elf. I thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube Live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your shade for the championship. Bucking on Tampa, duck down. Falcons, pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL, when things seem fishy and you probably smell the crooked referees are Roger Goodell. Probably like this and I'm a who that. Every day I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like this and I'm a who that. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.